because you could build something that works great. And maybe you could build something that has 1,000-foot range, but if it costs $10,000 for each one, there's not really a market for that. And figuring out where is that balance between, in this case, something like range and cost and weights and other things like that is part of that development process and part of nailing down what the path is that you want the entire product to take.
Yeah. So once you get through that phase, you've validated your idea, figured out some trade-offs. The next thing is to get to a prototype. The
Yeah.
next step.
Typically, the next step of the process would be a prototype. And again, the proof of concept is an early prototype.
Mhm.
After an initial proof of concept is done, the next iteration of the prototype, the goal of that would be to have it be a reasonable approximation of the finished product is going to be. So what do I mean by that? Again, things like the final packaging design. So the final plastic enclosure or metal enclosure, whatever it might be. Okay, it might not have that, but it would be done with custom designed hardware, whereas a proof of concept might be done with off-the-shelf development hardware as opposed to a custom circuit board. The next iteration would typically have custom circuit board. It would have all of the major components that are going to be part of the system. By major components, this is where things like, okay, if it's going to be battery powered, we may still not know exactly which battery, what size battery needs to go into it, but the prototype would still be battery powered so that we can test it and see what size battery are we going to end up needing. That first one should have all the functional pieces of the finished product and allow us to test out all of the ways that it would be used, how it would be powered, how it would be charged if it's rechargeable, how a user would interact with it. It should be something a user could interact with. This isn't an end user, but a person that can test it and validate, again, not just the core function, but now additional things like, maybe it has a display on it that's providing information to the user. Is the display bright enough, large enough? Is the text readable on the display? Those are the types of things that we want to be checking at this prototype stage. And oftentimes, of course, in the design process, we are aware of those requirements and we're considering them when we're selecting parts and things like that. But if I look at a part data sheet and it says, okay, this is a display and it's 240 pixels by 160 pixels and it's 2.3 inches wide and 1.9 inches tall, all of that information is there, but I can't necessarily visualize, okay, what does that mean when I put this image on it? What is a user actually going to see and how is that going to look?
Right.
And so there comes a time you evaluate everything that's available, but ultimately we've got to build it and test it and then put it in somebody's hands to look at it and see in reality how it works